welcome back to Underrated Movies. I'm your guy, I'm your man, Mr. Alton Henry. Today, I'd like to kind of talk to you about the definition of what is woke. What does that mean? And I'm curious to know and I'm curious to find out. There's so many interpretations what it could mean, but I think um, how it kind of narrows it down to, I guess this is what the basic understanding of what the term means. Uh, there's a flood watch. Oh no. Anyway, the term woke movies refers to films that are created with a strong emphasis on social and political awareness, particularly concerning issues related to social justice, inequality, and marginalized communities. Yeah, I gotta improve my reading. These movies often aim to raise awareness, provoke discussions, and promote progressive ideologies. The term woke originated from African American, was it vernacular English, AAVE, and initially refers to being aware or awake, and particularly in terms of recognizing and addressing systematic racism and um, social tile injustice. Woke movies typically tackle themes such as racial discrimination, gender inequality, LGBTQ rights, environmental concerns, and other social issues. They may feature diverse casts, showcase underrepresented perspectives, challenging traditional narrative and stereotypes of woke movies, strive to shed light on pressing social matters, and promote empathy, understanding, and change. All some, yeah, I do appreciate it. Some criticize it. Divisive, okay? It's a divisive political messaging kind of film that really it's been around for a while. Actually, no, it's been around. It's been around. Um, all the way, I guess, dated back to however long, 80s or even maybe even before that, even the 70s. So basically, it's a film that addresses social, political, and racial issues and tries to make a point um, about it. But it wasn't so common back in the day, but now it's very common in modern television. But it's always getting political, you know. I was actually watching this YouTube video about the movie industry, and I guess dating back to even its inception, excuse me, there's always been a political stance on what studios would want to be put in their films. The propaganda. It's always they've always had propaganda motives when it comes to their mainstream um, movies for audiences. It's always been political, even in action, even in action movies back in the '90s and '80s. I can probably tell you a good chunk of action movies growing up watching like Air Force One and all that. There's some wokeness to it, but to its core, I don't think the film really pushes it in all the way. But it's a propaganda movie basically. For me, yeah, almost every form of media that comes out. I mean, I ain't got time to watch all that. Has some sort of political message. Now, if it's a film, well, one of my favorite films, like, I wouldn't necessarily. Well, one of them, kind of, but I don't necessarily say it's woke because it strives or it strips down every trope that I could think of and really narrows it down to a more realistic setting, at least to me, is Sicario, Denis Villeneuve's 2015 action thriller. And I love the film. I love it. I don't care what anybody says about it. I love the film because it's a film I think grounds um, in a sense, to a reality sense. I mean, the movie doesn't really pull back when it comes to its gruesomeness, its messaging, and its portrayal of action sequences, and it feels very believable and masterfully directed by a fantastic filmmaker. But woke movies, more important, but woke movies, I guess, has been around for a while. It's just been more common and preachy. I guess 12 Years a Slave might be considered a woke film because there's a moment in the film where Solomon Northrop does ask a man for help, Brad Pitt, and eventually that help does come. And well, it was a better directed movie, but I can't necessarily see that as woke. For me, I think what defies a woke film, that the political message of a film overshadows the story of the film itself. I think that's what, at least to me, what a woke film is, where things are preached out that may seem unrealistic, but true to a sense. And believe a woke film is more message over story. It's a film that may um, show maybe some unrealistic um, expectations in a film, and it may, I would say, bash a certain group of minorities to get a message across, and it does get preachy. Now, I, for one, am a fan of a good chunk of these movies, and there's a list of movies that has been accumulated over time, considered as woke. Get Out, some of Spike Lee's movies, shoot, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Mad Max Fury Road, Widows is actually one of my favorites. Well, favorite movies that's come out in a while. Uh, and well, The Five Bloods, I really love that, and so forth. What I do like about woke films is that it does, and I've been noticing it too. They tend to they tend to deconstruct or try to avoid typical tropes or cliches from movies, from other movies that were to right savior stuff or all that. It's just they basically put a unique spin on some of these other movies and try to do things differently, not regurgitate the same message. But now there is a um trend of preaching the same message in some of these or most of these properties, where I think it's really just how the message is used and how it's converted on screen. Where sometimes they necessarily just force the message into people's throats. Like I thought Widows didn't. I thought, well, Get Out did, and us. I would say Nope kind of didn't. It It mentions race a bit, but it doesn't really focus on it. It focuses on something else entirely, which I really liked. Uh, The Five Bloods, which deals with race, but it does deviate from it more more noticeably compared to other Spike Lee movies when it deals with his main theme is race. Like he centers that on almost every single film, even in Inside Man. Um, but I think Inside Man's with religion when it comes to uh, uh, Jews or something. I'm not too if I remember correctly in that film. Uh, and I won't really list down a bunch of movies like from clips to clip. All right, I'm just throwing it out there. Um, from what I'm understanding, I think what I think one, I think it's a bad move to recast or replace a lot of original stories that we grew up watching, and from its origin it should be told and left the way it was originally told, originally represented, originally created, should be left alone. Okay. There's other stories, there's other layers of stories or from within a property you can explore, having a different ethnicity lead as the character or whatever. I think I touched us on this before about a year ago. I just checked my video when I talked about my stance on woke culture. I was supporter of it, but and it does get to the point where it becomes preachy, like you are watching like a Spike Lee movie. No disrespect to Spike Lee, but there's a point in each of his films he gets preachy. Okay. Like I still remember, like I ain't gonna lie to you, I still remember the infamous last episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Falcon was basically telling everybody you need to do better. That got so preachy, it just took me out of the whole story, and I just like, what the heck is going on? Like, I'm serious. That part where Anthony Mackie was just telling everybody, you need to do better. You got to do better. He needs to do better. That just took me out. It almost took me out of the series and wanted to like it even less. Here's the thing with here's an example of a movie that's not woke, or terms of doing it the right way. I guess that meets audiences' expectation. I would say the Five Bloods did it right too. Um, it dives on the racial things, but it doesn't rely on it too heavily. It does deal with ethnicities not being appreciated for their war effort, and honestly, that's a story I think that should be told. Uh, but it dives more onto, I think, to its core, um, men who haven't served into the war, or warriors, not social justice, just warriors going back to retrieve the fallen remains of their friend, um, whom they buried, um, like 40, 50 years in another country, and they want to go back not only to retrieve the gold that they buried for themselves because they want in on it and not care about the social or political cause. They in it saying, we gonna come back for this so we could try to live the rest of our lives happily and however we choose to, while also going back and retrieving the remains of their fallen comrade that has passed on um, in the Vietnam War. So to its core, they're like, forget the cause, man. We're going back. We getting what's ours. Okay. Uh, to its core, they felt underrepresented, but to an extent, they were like, forget the cause, we want to come back and do this. All right, we got to come back and get it. Um, example of a non woke movie. I don't think, uh, at least for me, it's Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Nothing, at least for me, from what I recall from watching that film, underrated. Nothing about that film I thought was pointing out to anything about John David Washington's racism or about his ethnicity. And good. And that's the point. That doesn't need to be brought up. I'm tired of movies bringing up um, just because, they are what they are and they'll throw out stereotypes about it. That's enough. The point is not to even discuss that. Just cool. We have an NSC for lead character. I'm cool with that. I'm great. Awesome. Don't mention anything. I mean, okay, put the culture in there. That's cool. I love learning about other culture. But you don't need to know all the the everybody goes through struggles. Everybody goes through under representation and all that. Like the Blue Beetle movie came out, which I wouldn't mind checking it out. I would like to check it out. I don't know if I want to spend money on it. Everything's. Uh, I'm getting choosy now what movies I go to the theaters now. Uh, but I wouldn't mind checking out Blue Beetle. Uh, like I also really liked Hidden Figures when it came out. I thought that movie was it nominated for Best Picture. Anyway, I thought that movie was really good. You know, uh, but the point is, there's a better way, a more natural way to get these messages out without even mentioning race or political issues, unless it's literally part of the story. Like if it's part of the story and they don't dive into it too well, that's cool. But if it like I could see what people are talking about. It's like you watch the movie, they get into the story, next thing you know, they have a history trivia lesson of some sort of political social messaging, and then for like a good minute or two, and then it pops right back into the story, and then they bring it right back up again. It's like why? Like why? Like why does that? I was getting into the movie of like 40 minutes in, and the next thing you know, you just do a cutaway sequence of a history lesson. Yeah, I could see it. The term or the kind of movies that Hollywood has been producing has been around for quite a while, but I am noticing that a lot of these movies are trying to ignore or not jump into or not jump into is not it's not the right word. But trying to avoid using some of the old tropes that we've seen countlessly from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and they're trying to do a unique spin on it. But at the end of the day, an example, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, it has some things going on for a woke film, but I'm gonna tell you right now, from what I've from watching that movie, it's very little, and to its core, it focused on a theme that everybody, well, if you're a parent, that everybody could relate to. Dysfunctional family, uh, con- wondering if they took the right path to live the best life. What if I've done this with my life? What if I've done that? Cherishing the memories of family, cherishing the memories of your loved ones. Um, regretting of taking a certain path, or can we learn to, accept the struggles and hardships of what it is to, you know, be a family? and to stick through and stick to it. And it was a very emotional film, having to balance comedy, sci-fi, drama, and martial arts, all of that, and it was done perfectly. That's probably one of the best woke movies to come out, but I don't know I would consider it as a woke film because it became more about a theme that everybody could relate to. Everybody, everybody. So, that's just me on my thoughts on it. What is a woke uh film or that's just me. Now, now with the strike, I'm sure a good chunk of you guys don't care. Who knows what's gonna happen, man. I just hope they figure out something soon. But it could be for like from what I've heard, and I don't want to talk about rumors, but there's a good chance that this could last for the rest of the year. But we'll see. All right, but all right, that's kind of it. But I do recommend not changing the ethnicity of any of the iconic characters we grew up watching. What purpose does that serve? Like I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I mean, why? Why would you do that? Like it's just that doesn't make sense to me. It's like me saying that's like that's like Dragon Ball Evolution. You go cast a certain ethnicity as Goku, knowing that the ethnicity is Japanese, but yet you gonna cast him as somebody different who doesn't have the physicality or even the look or just not even the characteristics of the character. It's like why? Why? Money. Political message, but money. But no, man. If I could find that video about how Hollywood was created from the get go and how they force political messaging through their heydays, because I mean I tend to notice like each like era from movies, they'll tend to fish out a number of pretty much the same films for like a decade, like 40s and 50s. Leading up to the 60s, you had war films from World War II, and then you had westerns. You had a bunch of them. You had a bunch of them. Then the 80s, 70s, the 80s, you had a bunch of just same old horror films. Leading up to what else they came out with 70s, because they were doing the action like crime films. Then you have black exploitation films, and it always in like a political like sense. Like 90s, you had like these political charge action movies, and then that's just it, man. That's all I got to say, man. What are your thoughts on it, man? I know it became kind of just rambling, but